This coming Shabbat, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to start the second Chumash in the Torah, Chumash Shemot. And I want to relate to something that is in the beginning of the Parashat Shemot. I assume everyone here knows that Sefer Shemot started with the description of the exile, the first exile that we had, not even as a nation, but as the big family of Yaakov Avinu, right? They all went to Mitzrayim because Yosef was found alive after many, many years that his father thought he's dead. And it was a famine in the land of Canaan, and therefore they went to Egypt. They went to Mitzrayim. So, in the beginning of this week Parashat, the name of the first Parashat is Parashat Shemot. Shemot, the meaning of the word Shemot is names. Names. So let me just recite a few psukim over there, and then we'll make a point about something specific. ואלה שמות בני ישראל הבאים מצרימה. And here the Torah describes the names of the Shvatim. ואלה שמות בני ישראל הבאים מצרימה את יעקב, איש וביתו באו, ראובן, שמעון, לוי ויהודה, יששכר, זבולון ובנימין, דן ונפתלי, גד ואשר. So all the names of the Shvatim, the 12 tribes. ויהי כל נפש יוצא ירך יעקב 70 נפש, ויוסף היה במצרים. So altogether there were 70 people. Joseph was in Egypt already. And actually those things are a summary of what Sefer Bereshit finished with. Now started the story. וימות יוסף וכל אחיו וכל הדור ההוא. And Yosef passed away, and all his brothers, and the entire first generation. Now, be aware of the following. ובני ישראל פרו וישרצו וירבו ויעצמו במאוד מאוד. The next generations, after the first generation passed away, they were multiplied in unusual way. They become a lot of people, many kids in each family. So they become a lot. ותמלא הארץ אותם. And the entire land of Egypt become full of Jews. Many Jews. Then the pasuk says, ויקום מלך חדש על מצרים אשר לא ידע את יוסף. So apparently, a new king became a king in Egypt. אשר לא ידע את יוסף, he never knew about Yosef. Because if he knew about Yosef, he knew what Yosef contributed to Egypt. Let's not forget, Yosef was the first treasury Jewish minister ever, right? And he saved the economy of Egypt. He predicts in advance the famine that's going to come, so he advised Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to collect all the food, right? And then when the famine came, Egypt was pretty okay, felt comfortable with the famine, and people come from abroad to Egypt to buy food. Yosef, you have to know, were a ruler in Mitzrayim for many years. He was 30 years old when he solved the dreams of Pharaoh. He was 30 years old, and he died at the age of 110, meaning for 80 years, he was the deputy to the king, the treasury minister, very honorable man. And of course, the family, his family that came, Pharaoh gave them the best place to live in Goshen. Goshen was the Beverly Hills at the time in Egypt. So they were very important people, and the Egyptians appreciated them because they saved Egypt. Then, after this first generation passed away, the Torah described that came a new king that never learned history. Not just he never met Yosef, but he never learned the history of Egypt to appreciate those people who contribute so much to develop the economy of Egypt. And this new king decided the following. ויקום מלך חדש על מצרים אשר לא ידע את יוסף, ויאמר אל עמו, הנה עם בני ישראל רב ועצום ממנו. Look at them, the Jews. They multiply in not usual way, and they become so many, right? So we have to be afraid from them. That was the crazy idea of this king. הבה נתחכמה לו, פן נרבה, והיה כי תקרנה מלחמה, ונוסף גם הוא על שונאינו, ונלחם בנו ועלה מן הארץ. Why? What is the threat from them? Because they are not part of us. We are Egyptian, they are Jews. They are Israelites. And if will be a war against Egypt, they will join the enemy. That was his crazy idea. Where he got it from? And we have to know, I mentioned that many times in the past here, in the classes that I gave here, if you remember, that the name of the Torah, the meaning of the word Torah is, Torah are instructions. תורה לי את הדרך, show me the way. So the Torah is not a history book. It's not something that describe to you events that happened. Every detail in the Torah is Torah, meaning is something that it's there in order for you to learn from it. That's one thing. The other thing is something that Chazal mentioned, that Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. Everything that happened to the first generations, Maaseh Avot meaning, usually Avot are Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But everything that happened in the beginning is just something that's going to appear in this way or another during the history, in the history of their descendants. So based on this, we have to know that when Yaakov and his sons, the tribes, went to Egypt, it was actually the first exile that we experienced as a nation. Again, we was not nation at the time. We were just a big family of Yaakov, right? But be aware of this. This is an amazing thing. We become a nation in exile, in Egypt, not in Israel, not in Canaan. To Egypt came the big family of Yaakov. From Egypt came the Jewish nation. So the Jewish nation was created or become a nation in Egypt as slaves, tortured slaves, avadum ve'inu otam. And there are some basic fundamental principles that we should learn from how this exile started and how we could learn from it to the future exiles that we're going to experience as a nation. Today, we are after the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash and the second. And we are in exile for many years, for close to 1,000 years, since the destruction of Yerushalayim and the destruction of Beit HaMikdash. And we're still in exile. Even though, Baruch Hashem, there is a Jewish state now in the land of Israel, but we have to know the facts. The vast majority of the Jews are still not in Israel. And even those who are in Israel, they are not there in the ideal way. We're still mourning every Tisha B'Av about the destruction of Beit HaMikdash. We still do not have Beit HaMikdash. We still do not have security in Eretz Israel. Everybody hear the news. We know every day, there is a problem of getting real approval from the nations that we deserve the land and the land belongs to us. Most of the nation against this, right? And when we live there, those of us who live there are in everyday struggle of scariness and insecurity. So we're still in exile. The nation as a nation for sure. As I mentioned before, most Jews are not living in Israel. And actually the thing that I want to emphasize today is for us, the Jews that live abroad. In a way, it's relevant also to the Jews who live in Israel. But let's learn a few major things about exiles and the dangerous of exile. Okay, so after we describe those psukim in Parashat Shavua, I'll summarize them again. The Jews came to Egypt as honorable people, the relatives of Joseph, who saved the economy of Egypt, right? In the beginning, they were very respectful. But then all of a sudden, something happened. A new king came, and everything turned around. And they took all those honorable people, the Egyptian took those honorable people, meaning the tribes and their descendants, and turned them to slaves. Just the opposite. What happened? If we understand this, we'll have the key to understand the dangers of exile. So, I want with you to learn a few things that are major. First, because here you have this amazing Wednesday Torah classes, and part of it started with you singing Tehillim, right? So, you reading Tehillim. Those of you who speak Hebrew maybe understand more the meaning of the word that you say in Tehillim. But even those who do not understand, just read the Tehillim, it's something big. I want to quote now a few psukim in Tehillim, few verses from chapter 105, Perek Kuf Hei B'Tehillim. The entire chapter speaks about how the Jews went to Mitzrayim. David HaMelech in Tehillim just repeat or give you a review of what happened. So, few psukim. Pasuk Kaf Gimel, Kaf Dalet, Kaf Hei. Verse 23rd, 24, and 25th. Says the following. Vayavo Israel Mitzrayim. I'm quoting from Tehillim now. ויבוא ישראל מצרים ויעקב גר בארץ חם. Israel and Yaakov are the name of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov and Israel. So, ויבוא ישראל מצרים, ויעקב גר בארץ חם. Yaakov went to dwell in the land of Ham. Ham, you have to know, is the father of Mitzrayim. Ham was the son of Noah. Noah has three sons, Shem, Ham, and Yefet. And the Torah describes that Ham has four sons, Uvnei Ham, Cush, Umitzrayim, Ufut, Uknaan. They're all four kids of Ham. So, this is the meaning of the pasuk. V'Yaakov gar be'eretz Ham. Yaakov came to dwell in the land of Ham, which is Egypt. Vayafer et amo me'od, vayatzmeu mitzarav. The meaning of the words, even for Hebrew speakers, not too many people understand what they're saying. Vayafer, meaning it's multiply. Melishon pru multiply. Vayafer et amo me'od. Hashem caused the Jewish nation to be multiplied in very unusual way, to be a lot. Vayatzmeu mitzarav. And he make him stronger, bigger than his enemies, which is the Egyptian. So what happened? Hafach libam lisno amo lehitnakel ba'avadav. Hashem turned the heart of the Egyptian, lisno amo, to hate his nation, lehitnakel ba'avadav, to do something so cruel and so unfair to his servants. That's what the psukim in Tehillim describe. Now the question is why? And be aware of what's written over here, Hafach libam lisno amo, meaning that Hashem did it. Hashem made it happen.
Because of assimilation.
Hashem made it happen that they will hate the Jews. The question is why? This is a bigger explanation or a detailed explanation about Vayakom melech hadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. So Hashem made it that there will be a new king that do not know Yosef, meaning ignore Yosef, and treat the Jews very badly. The question is why, and the secret is the following.
All the time happen like that.
Yeah.
Let me quote to you a medrash. We're going back to the Psukim in Shemot, right? In the Pasuk in Shemot it says that Bnei Israel paru vayishretzu vayirbu vayatzmu b'meod meod v'timale haaretz otam. So the simple understanding, they become a lot, and Egypt, the land of Egypt, become full of them, right? This is the pshat level. Now let's go deeper. Let's go to the Midrash. The Midrash says the following. What is the meaning of ותמלא הארץ אותם? אמר רבי יוחנן, מילאו את מצרים. They fill Egypt, a lot of Jews all over. דבר אחר, meaning a deeper level of it, שנתמלאו בתי תיאטראות ובתי קרקסאות מהם. And here is the secret. נתמלאו meaning not just the land was full of Jews, but the theater, the Medrash mentioned over here, theaters and circuses, meaning the culture of the Egyptians. Jews become the best customer of them. They went to their circuses, they went to their theater, they tried to assimilate culturally in Egypt. That's what the Medrash says. ותמלא הארץ אותם, you could go to any Egyptian event, you'll find Jews. Either participate or even running the show. Hollywood.
Those who married them.
They are powerful.
I'll get to this. I'll get to this. Let me. I just want to present the things. Again, remember, having the back of your mind, we're learning this in order to understand better the nature of exile. And it happened in the beginning, the first exile, and it's true for all exile, and here's the problem. Jews goes, it's like today, I could tell you that as an Israeli. Actually, all of you probably came as, or either you or your parents came as an immigrant from different countries to here. Why people came to America?
Freedom.
To have better life. Money, better life, freedom, right? So in a way, it's nice. I know a lot, personally, many Israelis who came from Israel to America to make money, to be in the big place, And some of them are here for years and very successful. They are businessmen, they get a lot of money, they have good life, good physical life. Now what's the problem with this? When you go to a different nation, at the time it was Egypt, today is America, or all over other places in the world, when you go to exile and you do not remember that you are in exile, the exile become your home. You start to identify yourself with the place that you live in, with the culture, and here start the cultural assimilation. You just do not remember what's the difference between a Jew and non-Jew. And you say, you know what? Especially today in America. They're so nice. I mean, why not? Let's have fun like them. Let's go to parties with them. And in a way, in the beginning, it doesn't seem so major, so terrible. Why not? But the result of it, you have to remember this. Assimilation, physical assimilation started from cultural assimilation. First, you start to do not understand. And you know what? sometimes the first generation still remember. As it says here, Vayamot Yosef v'chol echav v'chol hador hahu. The first generation knew exactly who they are. But they have children that was born in exile, right? And they do not know. They heard stories about the parents, about the old land, but they identify themselves with the new place that they are in. And here starts the assimilation. Now, we have to know that today, assimilation is our number one enemy. Number one. Not the political problems or the security problems in Israel. Even if that will be solved, will be peace agreement with all Arab countries and all of them become Zionists, right? Our main problem in the world is that we're losing Jews for assimilation. This is our number one enemy all over the world. How it's starting? It's starting when Jews do not understand what is the meaning to be a Jewish. And they say, you know what? What's the difference between people? They are nice also. Let's go to their events. And that's what happened there in Egypt 3,300 years ago, more, 3,700 years ago, at the time of Yaakov and the tribes. The Midrash says, "Vatimaleh haaretz otam," they become part of the land, not just technically, culturally. They become part of the land. That could cause disappearing of the Jewish nation. So, what's the Torah says? What's the Tehillim that we just quoted before says? That Hashem wants the Jewish nation to stay. Therefore, His way to protect the Jewish nation is when the Jews want to be like the Goyim, He turned the Goyim against the Jews. Hafach libam lisno amo. Which is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. How could a king just come to become a king, do not know Yosef, ignore, deny everything, deny the history, and convince his nation to take the Jews, that was until his time very honorable people, make them slaves, and torture them? The idea is crazy. You know, anyone could buy this story. You know what? They become so many. If will be a war in the future, they will join the enemy. This is anti-Semitism par excellence. No one could understand, but it works. It works there, and it works during the history. What we learned over here is something amazing. Jews are the chosen people. They were chosen by God to be His nation. And Hashem has His way to protect us and keep us be His nation, even when some of us do not understand what's important about this and what's to deny it and what to assimilate. And it was movement like this during the history. I just want to mention one thing from the history, but not the far history. If you learn the history of Europe, 100 years ago, just take 100 years back, reverse, go back 100 years. The Jews in Europe identified with the European culture. Many of them were assimilated culturally and technically. They marry Goyim. And the best place, the place for Jews to be was Germany. Germany and France, which is the two most anti-Semites nation, after the Renaissance, give the Jews rights. You could be part of us, right? And they led them to go to the universities and to be equal, right? What happened when they let the Jews to be equal? The Jews went out of the ghetto. They went to the university because they have the Jewish cup, the Jewish head. Because they learned Talmud during the years that they were in the ghetto. No one let them to do anything else. When they came out and they let them join the university, they become the best students. Right? They have the head. They have the Jewish head. They're smarter. So they become the best students. Very short after, they become the teachers, the professors. They're very good with money, so they become the head of the banks. In a way, it seems that it's good for the Jews, right? But what's the problem? You could not leave the ghetto and become like the others with the same clothing, with the same, eat kosher, because you have meetings, business meeting, right? So what are you going to say? I cannot eat this, it's not kosher? So in the beginning, Jews knew who they are, but the second generation and the third generation, they start to adapt the culture of the Goyim. So what happened? Slowly but surely, they married non-Jews, and the next generation was not Jewish anymore. So see what happened. Anti-Semitism is something that we usually think is very bad to the Jews. Anti-Semitism. I want to show a different angle for this. How anti-Semitism, ironically, is good for the Jews. Why? Because the Jews want to become like the Gentiles. If so, the Jewish nation will disappear. What is the ways of God? And it didn't start now. It started in Egypt. Hafach libam lisno amo. Hashem turned the heart of the Goyim to hate the Jews. Unnaturally, it doesn't make any sense. There is no reason that shows exactly that it's the hand of God over here. If you learn a little bit, people do not learn this aspect of Yimach Shemam, the Nazis.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
The Nazis, we all know or heard about them, about how murderous they were, the concentration camp, the gas chamber, the killing, the murdering of the Jews. But we have to know that they have philosophy behind all this crazy racist idea. They hate the Jews. Hitler, Yimach Shemo v'zichro, wrote a book, Mein Kampf, and he explained that the Jews are the most dangerous nation to the world. Therefore, we have to eliminate them. Germany before Nazism, Germany before 1933, was a Garden of Eden for Jews. It was the most intelligent nation, the best philosophers, the best scientists. It was in Germany, and Jews were part of them. They were even the leaders of research and everything, the Jews. It seems, wow, the Jews reached now a very good point. But what was the thing that they have to pay? They didn't look at it at the time this way.
They paid the life.
They have to give up Judaism to be like them. Like? So, Hashem, the same way, like in Egypt, ויקום מלך חדש על מצרים אשר לא ידע את יוסף. All of a sudden, it was not expected. No one in Germany could dream, I'm talking about German people, that the Nazis will take the power in Egypt. Years before, it was impossible. So, הפך ליבם לשנוא עמו. And became a new king, like Paro at the time, Hitler here. לשנוא עמו. To hate this nation. And it's all the hand of God. And you have to know, the Holocaust is a terrible thing. The fact that so many Jews was killed, murdered in such a cruel way. But if you summarize it historically, because of the Holocaust, or big reason, one of the major things that the Jewish state got legitimacy, the Gentile approved because they have guilt after World War II. Yeah. In 1945, they voted for establishing the Jewish state in Israel, right? So, first of all, we have to know that if the Nazis were not there, I'm just summarizing the fact. I'm not saying that it's right. If I have to plan the history, probably I will not prefer that will be such a thing like Hitler and Nazism. But if you summarize it, if without Nazism, without the Holocaust, without World War II, what's going to happen to the Jewish nation? Complete assimilation and disappearing. Ironically, the Holocaust made the Jews realize that they are Jewish. I know, ironically, it's amazing. To remind them that they are Jewish, because they thought that they are Germans. They thought that they are Goyim, they're Gentiles. This is the ideal way. So here I heard something amazing. You know, I'll give you one sentence. Remember it for the rest of your life. Cultural assimilation started in Europe right after the Renaissance. What they called after that the Enlightenment started assimilation, cultural assimilation between Jews that say, okay, we are Jewish, but we do not have to keep Jewish lifestyle of life. We could be like the Goyim. It started about 200 years ago. Every week, we have Shabbat. We have Shabbat, right? There is 6 days of the world of the year of the week, and then in the 6th day, at the evening, we accept Shabbat. One day, the 7th day in the week, is a holy day for us. How it's holy, how we differentiate it from the other regular days. In the beginning of Shabbat, we're doing Kiddush. Kiddush. Kiddush meaning you're taking this day and make it holy. Kiddush. This is the meaning of the word Kiddush. Lekadesh et Shabbat. At the end, when Shabbat is over, we're doing Havdalah. Havdalah is separation between the Kodesh and the Holy. In the Havdalah we sing, Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol, ben or lechoshech. There is a separation. Everybody obviously understands the difference between the darkness and light. Hamavdil ben or lechoshech. So we saying the following, and we mention another thing. Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol, ben or lechoshech, ben Yisrael la'amim. So the same way there is a differentiation, should be an obvious differentiation between light and darkness, between holy and non-holy, Kodesh lechol. The same way should be a difference between Jews and non-Jews. And you have to understand it in the right way. It's not that we are better. It's not.
We are.
But that's not it. That's not it. That's not it.
We are
המבדיל בין ישראל
We
לעמים,
are stupid.
let me explain. המבדיל בין ישראל לעמים, meaning, the meaning of this is responsibility. It's not to be arrogant. It's to become responsible. We have a mission in the world as a nation. We are the nation of God. We accept the Torah. We should be the light for the nation. We are not saying, chas v'shalom, that they are bad and we are good. We should be the leaders, the spiritual leaders, the eye-openers of how to live life in a decent way as a human being, not as animals. And we have it because we got instruction from the creator of the universe and the creator of God, of man, that know better than anyone else what should be the right way to live. And we brought to the world the Ten Commandments, the Torah, the prophets. It's all ours and they know it. We do not know it sometimes. We forgot about it. Now look at the following. This is the sentence that I want you to remember. In Shabbat, in the beginning of Shabbat, we differentiate between Shabbat to the regular days of the week by doing Kiddush. Kiddush means this day is not regular day, it's holy. Kiddush is Kedusha, holiness, right? When we finish Shabbat, we separate between the holy and the regular by doing Havdalah. What's Havdalah? Separation.
Different.
I use this on purpose. Separation. Havdalah. Le'avdil. To differentiate. The rule of the history, and it started from Egypt to the World War II, and who knows to the future. If the Jews do not make Kiddush, the Goyim will do Havdalah. If we will not appreciate our holiness, and we try to say we are like everyone else, if you will not do it, they will do it. And that's exactly what happened when the Nazis came. The Nazis came to the Jews, they said to them, you want to be like Germans? No way. You're not Aryan. You're Jewish. And it doesn't matter. Even if the father was German, but the mother was Jewish, or even if the grandmother was Jewish, you are Jewish. You are not part of us. So, it's a very interesting way. When we want to run away from our Judaism, Hashem has his way, and this is the pasuk in Tehillim that we just quoted before. Hafach libam lisno amo. You do not want to be Jewish? We are not going to accept you. You are not part of us, the Goyim will say. And it's a shame. We should be a proud Jews. We do not need them to remind us that we are Jewish. But if we do not do it, we go to their theaters, we go to their circuses, we go to their culture, we will adapt, we'll try to be part of them.
Concert.
History shows in Egypt, in World War II, and the entire history. When we want to run away from our Judaism, anti-Semitism comes. People thought, you know what? Why there is anti-Semitism? Why they hate us? Because we are different than them. Let's be like them, and they will like us. It proves wrong. That was the ideology of the Enlightenment. They say, just break all the walls between Jews and non-Jews. Stop being Jewish, be like them, and then you'll solve the problem of anti-Semitism. History proves it was so wrong. The more you want to be like them, you do not want to be Jew, they will remind you that you are Jewish. You cannot be one of them.
In the bad way.
In the very bad way.
Yeah.
And now we have to know. By the way, there is another midrash that we have to learn over here. I'll quote you now midrash about this pasuk. Vayakom melech hadash al Mitzrayim, midrash Rabbah. The midrash brings pasuk in Sefer Hosea. Sefer Hosea was one of the prophets. And the prophet Hosea says the following: Bahashem bagadu, ki banim zarim yaladu. He speaks about the Jewish nation, and he said the Jewish nation betrayed God. Ki banim zarim yaladu, because they have foreign children. What is the meaning of this? And the Navi says it's betraying Hashem. It's a bgida, bagadu, because they have foreign children. Says the Midrash on this, ללמדך, שכשמת יוסף, הפרו ברית מילה. אמרו נהיה כגויים. וימות יוסף וכל אחיו וכל הדור ההוא. When Yosef passed away, the Jews or the children of the tribes that were in Mitzrayim stopped perform Brit Milah. We have to know, at the time we do not have Torah yet, but Brit Milah we have from Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu got the mitzvah of Brit Milah. Avraham made Brit Milah on Yitzchak, Yitzchak on Yaakov, Yaakov on the Shvatim, and all of them were with Brit Milah. Brit Milah is a sign of in the body that you are Jewish. Because Vatimale haaretz otam, they want to be like the Goyim. One of the things that they do, they stop doing Brit Milah. Amru niyeh kamitzrim. And this is the meaning, Ba'Hashem bagadu, ki banim zarim yaladu. They have boys that were foreigners, like the Goyim, without Brit Milah. וכיוון שעשו כך, continue the מדרש, הפך הקדוש ברוך הוא, האהבה שהיו המצרים אוהבים אותם, לשנאה. Because they did that, Hashem turned the love that the Egyptians, the appreciation that the Egyptians has for them, to a hatred. A hatred. שנאמר, and here bring the Midrash, this pasuk in Tehillim, Kuf Hei, הפך ליבם לשנוא עמו, להתנכל לעבדיו. So Hashem turned the heart of the Egyptian to hate the Jews. Why? Because the Jews want to run away from their Judaism. This is the thing that we could learn from this week's parasha. As I said before, this is the first exile. But this exile has in it the seeds or the principles that we have to learn from them not to repeat this mistake. We repeated this mistake 200 years ago in Europe, and we saw exactly the same result. Vayakom melech chadash, and he decided to publish hatred. And he succeeded to do it against the Jews. Now you have to understand, as I mentioned before, few years before 1933, just few years before Nazism became a fact in Europe, it was the most unlikely, the most impossible thing that intelligent, democratic society like Germany before the Nazis will adopt such a way, giving power to Hitler and the Nazism. It was the craziest idea that you could think about a few years before. No one saw what's going to happen. And now let's go to today and to here. We are in America. Everyone heard the magic number 6 million Jews in America, right? You have to know that this number is actually a terrible number. Why? Because right after World War II, the number of the Jews in America was 6 million. 70 years later, we stayed in the same number. You know what that means? That means that we lost so many Jews. It doesn't make any sense. It's not increasing, it's decreasing. It's decreasing. And if you take the 6 million Jews in America today, we have to know that vast majority, obvious majority of them, have no clue that they are Jewish. They're not interested in that. They're not practicing Judaism. They have no clue what Judaism is all about. For sure, they are not identifying with themselves with Judaism, only with the twist that Judaism is, I don't know what, but it's not Torah for sure. It's not Shabbat. It's not Kashrut. It's not performing Jewish lifestyle. It's not. Most of the 6 million that we have today. And we have to know that the number of assimilation today in America is 58%, meaning more than every second Jew marry non-Jew, and the children are not Jewish. So we are in a very much process of assimilation. But no one really pay attention to this. The only Jews that are going to stay Jews, stay Jewish, let's say in another generation or two, will be the Orthodox community. Because the rest are marry goyim and finished. They're not Jewish anymore. In the next generation, there is no such. Take the reform movement. No such a thing for generational reform. There's no such a thing. Reform, a son of reform, a son of reform, a son of reform. No such a thing. They marry non-Jews and finish. They out. In America, it's very easy to assimilate. It seems so nice and so cultural, and it's freedom and it's liberal, right? It's easy to get lost. Very easy to lose your identity as Jew. Hashem Yishmor. I'm not trying to be a prophet of showing darkness, but there is a recipe. It works in the history. And if you think it could never happen in America, Anti-Semitism can never happen. Just learn from the history. Few years before the Holocaust, few years before the Nazis in Germany, no one think it's possible. But it was. We have to know, we have a covenant with God. When we said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we're going to be your nation, we meant it. And of course, he meant it. And he has his way to keep us his nation. And if we are stubborn, we just learn history. Learn history. He has his way. We have to return to be Jewish. We have to learn what Judaism is all about. We have to perform it. It's not just to learn. Judaism is not a book on the shelf. Judaism is a way of life. We should live as Jews. If you will not live as Jews, you could preach to your children from now to who knows. If you are not keeping Shabbat, if you are not keeping Kashrut, if you have no Jewish pride, and if you do not clearly explain to your children what is the difference and what is the meaning to be Jewish, not in speech, in action, it will not pass to the next generation. The price that we, chas v'shalom, going to pay, that your children or your grandchildren will not be Jewish anymore. I'm saying very hard words, but we have to say it.
It's the fact.
We have to know it. First of all, this is the fact. Second, we have to learn from our history. We have a mission. We could not run away from our mission. And our mission is so precious. We should be proud to be Jewish. But in order to be proud, we have to learn what Judaism is all about. So classes like this, that we learn the Torah and try to explain the importance of being Jewish, is for sure part of the thing, but it's not enough. You could come here for 1 hour once a week. Question is, what are you going to do when you leave over here now? Where are you going? Where are you going? We're going to exile. Here in this room now, when we learn Torah, we are not in exile. Here, this is Bet HaMikdash. This is the Kedusha, this is here. But the problem is we cannot be here forever. We have life, right? So we're going to finish over here. We're going to go home. What are we going to go to do at home? Open the TV. What's the TV? It's the theater. It's the culture. Even before we reach home, we'll have the cell phone, right? In the cell phone, we have access to the theater. We have access to the culture around us. And it seems so sweet and so nice and so tempting. And what's wrong with it, right? What's wrong with it? We have to remind ourselves always that we are in exile. As long as we know as we are in exile, we have hope. When we will start to think that our exile is our home, finish. We have to know the meaning of being Jewish, the difference. And again, we chas v'shalom are not looking at going from up down. It's obligated us. It's not make them less. Let's emphasize in us. It's put on us responsibility. We have to learn the Torah of God, the instructions of God. We have to walk in the ways of God. And this is the only way to survive. If each one of you is proud to be Jewish, and you are not naive to think that everything will be okay, you have to understand that it's not enough to learn Torah. You have to perform in your action in everyday Torah. This is the only way that your children will think, my parents are serious. It's true. But if you preach to them and do just the opposite, what the message? Do whatever you want. It seems okay. You know where chas v'shalom you're going to pay the price? You're going to be devastated when at the age of 22, 23rd, your son will come and tell you, I'm going to get married. I find her. And who is she? Virginia, Christina, non-Jew. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You have to know that your responsibility is from very, very early age to give them the confidence, to give them the pride to be Jewish, to explain to them why we are different. And we should teach them to be different, not to eat everything, eat only kosher. Keep Shabbat without playing games. Keep Shabbat. If not, you're going to sacrifice your children. It's very easy today to say, you know what? Let's put my kid in a public school. Jewish school costs a lot of money. So you save money now, right? You save money, but you're going to lose your child in about 15 years from now. If you teach him that, we and the Goyim are the same. He grew up from very early age with the Goyim around, in elementary school, in high school, in college. How could you demand from him to marry a Jew? Why? It's a discrimination. So we have to really, and the children are very smart. They are not just listening what you say. Actually, they are not listening to what you say. They're learning from your action. They know exactly if you're honest or not. So education started from you. From you. If you really care about it, the message will go to the next generation. If you do not care about it, even if you have nice word to say about tradition and Torah, but if you're not doing it practically, you're going to lose it. I'm sorry to say this harsh word, but someone has to say them. I contributed myself to say it. I think it's important, and I think those words which are true from the beginning to the end, it's facts. Those words, we have to put the issue on the table. We should not play that it's not there. It's there. Jewish identity is the most important thing in this generation. So I hope from this week Parsha we learn just one pasuk. ותמלא הארץ אותם ויקום מלך חדש על מצרים. When we become like them, then Chas v'Shalom could come a new king that made a lot of very terrible decrees. But without it, even without it, if Chas v'Shalom the situation will be like that it's very nice to live in America, right? And you see, you have your freedom, you have your, and you succeed to give your children the Jewish identity. You do not need gas chamber to kill the Jews. You could kill them in a very nice, elegant way. By just let them marry Goyim and then finish. No more Jewish nation. There are two ways to get rid of the Jewish nation. Either kill them brutally or hug them. Hug them, the bear hug. Be part of us. Be part of us. We have to be aware of this. We have to make our Jewish identity strong for ourselves, for our next generation, until במהרה בימינו השם ישלח לנו את הגאולה, השם ישלח לנו, השם will send us Mashiach, and the real redemption, and we will go not just technically to the land of Israel, but spiritually also. We'll understand our mission and we'll be a proud Jews. Bravo.